Good morning and welcome to my weekly live cast here at Stonemaier Games. I'm Jamey and I'm here to spend the next hour with you. Whether you are live or in the future watching this, you can still participate in the comments then either way. Aaron, Garrett, good morning. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Got a lot to talk about today. Let me start off slow. I'll start off with some non-gaming things I've been enjoying recently. I am currently reading The Ministry of Time. And I also saw that there was a new book in the, I forget the official series, the name of the series, it's by Adrian Tchaikovsky, but Children of Strife, the fourth book in a series that provided a slight inspiration for Apiary, is just released. So I had that as well. And we're watching season 2 of Paradise, which is quite good so far, and season 2 of Monarch, which is also quite good so far, and season, I think, 3 or 4 of Shrinking, which is also excellent. But we've learned that we can't watch it at lunch because we get too emotional, and I then have to go back to work after we're really emotional. So we save Shrinking for dinner now. What are you watching? What are you enjoying recently? Watching, reading, either of those two things, or listening to? Garrett says, are we still partially house hunting? How's that going? Well, Garrett, this is actually one of the last times that you'll see this backdrop behind me because we did buy a house and we are moving quite soon. So we found what we think is, well, I hope, because we already bought it, is the right place for us. And we're going to be putting our current condo on the market in April. That's a little house update. I'm also really excited about the Hail Mary project, or Project Hail Mary, not Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary, the movie. I love the book, and the movie comes out this weekend. I'm hoping to see it. It's a little bit difficult to have extra time for things while we're going through the moving process, but yeah, hopefully I can find time for it soon because that's one that I really, really want to see in the theater. This past weekend, I posted my video of my top 10 favorite games of all time as of right now. This is a video I do every 6 months, which hopefully doesn't take away too much of the pomp and circumstance around it, because I do take a lot of games into serious consideration every time I make the list, and I have fun making it. So this past weekend, I posted that video. I won't spoil anything here if you want to go check out what those top 10 games are right now, but they were all over the place, from 3-hour games to 15-minute games, pretty broad range of games so I consider myself an omni gamer, so it kind of makes sense for me to do that. Aaron says they just started reading Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters and am thoroughly enjoying it so far. Has been on my to-read list since I heard about it 20 years ago. Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. I haven't read that one. Galaxy Conqueror is reading Revelation Space by Alastair Reynolds. I've heard of that author, but I don't think I've read anything by them. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Birder14 says, what do you think of the Oscars winners this year? You know, I was out of town at the Gamers Ranch, which I'll talk about in a moment, just playing games with people over the past weekend. So I wasn't paying attention to it, and I honestly rarely pay attention to it. I enjoy movies for the entertainment value and the cinematography and the nice things, the many incredible things that go into making a movie, but I don't really care about awards in gaming or in movies. So I think I saw that Sinners won a bunch of awards, and that One Battle After Another won a bunch of awards. So congratulations to them. Anthony saw reminders of him. Arenajo is from the Great Wolf Lodge Water Park. Hopefully you're having fun there. Maybe a little chilly in St. Louis for it to be water park weather. Oh, George saw Project Hail Mary a little bit early. Well done, George. He said, I'm sure you'll like it a lot and you'll cry a little bit when you watch it. I think I may have cried a little bit when I read the book. So yeah, I fully expect that in the theater too. I did see some movie trailers drop recently. Movies that I already know I'm going to watch. So I'm not watching these trailers, but Spider-Man was one of them, as Anthony mentions here. And Dune 3, the trailer for that also released. So I am avoiding watching them because I know for sure I'm going to see those movies in the theater. Let me throw out an early question of the day for you before I talk about Gamers Ranch and power rankings. I recently surveyed Stonemaier ambassadors, and I asked them, do you consider yourself an expert on any of our games? And I got a bunch of different responses for people who consider themselves an expert at a specific game, like a Wingspan expert, a Tapestry expert. And I rarely do this, but I asked this question without knowing exactly what I wanted to do with the answer. Like I could do videos with experts where we talk about the strategy. I could commission these experts to write a strategy guide about the game. One thought is to put together a comprehensive strategy guide, kind of like the old Nintendo Power magazine, full of graphics and strategies that people write out. So I'm not exactly sure what to do with that information, but I have it now. And I'm curious what you think I should do with that information now that I have this list of experts about our games. What do you think? Okay, let's talk about Gamers Ranch briefly. So Gamers Ranch is a vacation property in the middle of Missouri, about 2 hours away from St. Louis, that is geared around mostly tabletop gaming, but they also have pinball machines, they have video games, they have a full 18-hole disc golf course, which is actually quite incredible to have that right outside the door. This is maybe the 5th year that I've arranged for a group, I've coordinated a group to go to Gamers Ranch, and there were around 20 of us there. I invited some other friends from the area and from St. Louis to join us on Saturday. So we had maybe 30 people in the building on Saturday. It was pretty crowded, but a lot of fun. And we just played a ton of games. We definitely, and then we played a ton of tabletop games. And I wanted to mention a few of the games that I played. So I played some older to me games, including, where's my list? I played Moon Colony Bloodbath a lot. I've been wanting to play that. I think you've probably heard me talk about that on this live cast. I've been wanting to get it back to the table because I enjoyed it so much. And I ended up teaching and playing it 6 times over the weekend. Whenever someone wanted to play, I was in for it. It was one of those games where I was like, I am just having fun with this game. I want to keep playing it. So Moon Colony Bloodbath was definitely up there. I played well, no, that's a new game. Bonanza, Lords of Waterdeep, El Grande, Skyrise, Magical Athlete, and Kingsburg were the games that I had already played before and played again. I had a great time playing them. And then all the new to me games were Tend. Played Tend. I played Photograph. I played Toy Battle, Legendary Game of Thrones, Lovecraft Letter, Agent Avenue, Marrakesh, Viking Seesaw, and Mind Bug. And I enjoyed all of them for different reasons. If I had to pick a favorite out of those, I think I would say Mind Bug. I really, really enjoyed playing Mind Bug. And Mind Bug, the core idea of Mind Bug is a 2-player dueling game. On your turn, you either play a card from your hand or you attack with one of your creatures, and you're trying to reduce your opponent's life to 0, but they only have 3 health. So it's not a long game. It's like a 10-minute game. And the big twist in it is that whenever I play a card, or twice per game, whenever I play a card, you can decide, no, I want that card in front of me instead. And you can play a Mind Bug, or you can use one of your Mind Bug tokens to gain that card instead. This added a great decision space in the game throughout the game. Whenever you played something awesome, I had to decide, do I want to have that for me instead of you? And that was, we had so much fun. I think I played it like 5 or 6 times over the course of the weekend. I taught it to people were teaching it to other people. So yeah, Mind Bug, I had a great time with that. That and Moon Colony Bloodbath were my most played games over the weekend. And I also played, what was it? Played a few other games a couple times. Played Agent Avenue a couple times. And I also played, of course, some longer games like Lords of Waterdeep, and had a great time doing that as well. So I guess a fun question for you is, if you were to attend the Gamers Ranch, if you were to go there, knowing that they have pinball machines, they have disc golf, they have tons of tabletop games, you don't have to bring any games there, and I hope you do get to go there someday, what do you think you would spend your time playing? Do you think you would play a bunch of games over and over again, like I did with Moon Colony Bloodbath, with Mind Bug? Some people were doing this with Bomb Busters, with Lord of the Rings Trick Taking. Or do you think you would choose a few like meatier, longer games and play those games over the weekend, or play a mix of the two? What would be your approach? So I have some answers about the experts question. If I know some people who are now experts at some of our games, the Stonemaier Games, what do I do with that information? Aaron says, I love the Nintendo Power magazine, all the cheat codes. Yeah, I was thinking that could be neat to put together. DJ Dan says, with as many people that play Wingspan, I think the base game, you will find more experts. But the more expansions that have come out, you will see less experts. I can definitely see that. Oh, Aaron, Aaron was talking about, so Aaron, you're right. Some people may have answered that they are very experienced with the games. They're very comfortable teaching a specific game, but may not be an expert in terms of the strategy. I can see that. Jonah says, I would ask experts of strategy how to make sure that doesn't dominate the game. Well, that's so use it for to learn as we make expansions for some of these games, to learn from those experts as to things that they think maybe we could balance out a little bit. Maybe that's what you're getting at. A panel of experts talking about their favorite strategies in the games could make for an interesting podcast episode or series. I like that. Yeah, do a panel approach to it. That would be a lot of fun, especially since I could get multiple experts for a specific game. We could do a Wingspan episode where they talk about their strategies. There's also a YouTube channel that does this. They don't release as many videos anymore, so I'm forgetting the name. Luke says, I like the idea of a board game magazine with tips, art, contests, roll-in rights, interviews, etc. Could be a lot to put together, but could be fun for an April Fool's product one year. Garrett says, Time to Panic, a small game from IV Studio, cooperative where you're trying to get cards to align and order a bunch of different effects in an event deck that creates chaos. Super tense, super fun. Aaron is excited about the pinball tables at Gamers Ranch. Austin got an 88 at Origin Story in a game where you average probably around 30 to 40 points at most, maybe even 20 to 30. Well done, Austin. That's an incredible score. Wendy says, she hesitated to call herself an expert. I love teaching games and teach quite a few Stonemaier games regularly, but I don't win enough to call myself an expert. But experience, yeah, that is a key difference, and maybe I should have emphasized that better in the question. Chris says, good morning. Any favorite books about the history of board games? That's a good question, Chris. I'll have to look for other commenters for that recommendation for the history of board games. I'm sure there are. There is a good, I mean, there are lots of good books about board games, including a recent one called like the 100 Games to Play Before You Die by the person who runs the 3-Minute Board Games YouTube channel. They don't really go into, I mean, there is a little bit of context and historical context in the book, but it isn't necessarily about the history, going way back into history. But that is one to start out with. I wonder if others have other recommendations here. George mentions I could create some strategy tips brochures, mini booklets, fast to read but consistent enough. We could even put them in our games if we wanted. We could put a little strategy guide in there if you want to read through it. Casey says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited for March Madness are you? Let's see. I am about a 7, maybe an 8. Like I like checking ESPN every now and then during the tournament, maybe daily for a while, to see like which teams are upsetting other teams, which teams have like a breakout player, things like that. But I've intentionally found that I have more fun when I don't fill out a bracket. When I fill out a bracket, I end up like rooting for the bracket instead of doing what I actually find a lot more fun doing, which is rooting for underdogs and sometimes rooting for specific teams. Like my brother-in-law is a big fan of Iowa State, so I like rooting for them. So I've learned that I have more. So if I had filled out a bracket, my answer probably would have been an 8, but I would have ended up having fun equivalent to like a 5 out of 10. But now that I haven't filled out a bracket, I know I'm going to have a lot of fun following along the tournament here and there. I don't watch it, but I just pay attention to the scores and look at some of the highlights sometimes. But I hope anyone who gets really into it is very excited for it. I can see anyone getting very excited for the March Madness tournament. DJ Dan says, I would have a list of games that I always wanted to play and then try to get those played at the ranch. I would also put some time in to relax my mind here and there too. I like that. I like it. Yeah, it's a vacation. Yeah. Use your vacation time to do what you want. And I went into it with a list. The system, one thing that I really like about Gamers Ranch, a system that we've used that you can't really do at a convention, is that I bring some sticky notes. I bring a few pads of sticky notes, and when I arrive, I put them on a bunch of games around the Gamers Ranch with my name on it, and I put pens out so other people can put their names on those sticky notes, or they can take sticky notes and put them on the games that they want to play. And that way, whenever you want to find a game, it's very easy to just scan around the room and see the sticky notes and look for the ones that have your names on them and go find the people that also have their names on them, and you can play a game. It makes it, like at a convention, you're always thinking like, oh, what am I going to play next? And try to figure that out and who you're going to play with. When you have all those games just there in the library surrounding you, it makes that process really, really easy. And yeah, I enjoy doing that little hack there. Zachary says, was that the first time you had played Marrakesh? I love that, and it was in my top 3 to me new games of last year. This was my first play of Marrakesh, and I really enjoyed it. I loved upgrading the mini games. It has so many different like actions / mini games that you get to upgrade and get better at over the course of the game. I love that feeling of engine building in a game. Dan says, you reminded me that there used to be a magazine called Games Magazine that had an insert with a pen and paper puzzle. It covered tabletop game news. Yeah, there have been a few game magazines that unfortunately no longer exist. I think even Game Informer may not exist anymore. I'm going through the process of moving right now, so I was going through a bunch of old stuff. I found some magazines that I kept for a while. I've since recycled them because I haven't looked at them in years, but they had covered things like Scythe when Scythe came out. 11 years ago? No, 10 years ago. It was 2016 that Scythe was originally released. Peter says, does the nesting box have room for all the fan art or just the base and expansions? Also, is the green tray for America supposed to go in the nesting box? Yes, Peter, good questions. Yeah, so the bottom layer of the nesting box is the most modular layer in some ways. And I recommend if you have the fan art cards, the fan art box is designed to fit into that bottom layer with 2 card trays, like the green card tray for Americas. So if you have the fan art box, you can put it down there with 2 other trays. If you don't have it, you can put 3 trays down there and hold a bunch of bird cards down there in the bottom layer. Zachary says, is there anything specifically at your new house that you're excited about that you didn't have in your current place? One of the things I'm realizing that I am excited about is that it is a house and not a condo. I've lived in condos since 2007, I think, was when I bought my first condo. And then I bought this condo in 2019. And I love the condo. I love the idea of a condo because you don't have to take care of the yard. Like the condo fee takes care of the yard. I'm not someone who likes to do a lot of yard work or really any yard work. So I like the lack of maintenance aspect of that. But I'm realizing as I'm going through the moving process that coming and going from a house versus a condo is a different process. Like when I park, I know this sounds incredibly trivial, but I'm enjoying it. It's a small thing that I'm enjoying. When I park my car at my condo, I have to walk from the garage up 3 flights of stairs to get into the condo, and then I'm here. Very small thing. But in the new house, we have an attached garage in the new house, and it is really nice just to, like, if I want to get into the car, I kind of just like fall out of the house and I'm in my car. I don't have to walk anywhere to get to my car. And that's really nice. It's a little thing, but it isn't something that I realized I would appreciate as much as I did. And we'll see how it balances out in the long run, because now I have to take care of a yard, but I get this benefit of proximity of car to house. So I'm enjoying that. Wade says, I think Richard Garfield brought the mind bug mechanism into King of Tokyo, but I haven't tried it yet. Oh, that's really cool. Oh yeah, I didn't he do a crossover there recently? Mind bug is really cool, and that's neat that he's applying it to other games. Richard Garfield was also one of the designers for Mind Bug. Aaron says Game Informer has recently been revived. That's exciting. I think I have a strong sense of nostalgia. I mentioned Nintendo Power. Even as someone who did not play, I didn't own a Nintendo. I've never owned a Nintendo, or as a kid, I never owned a Nintendo. But I still looked through the Nintendo Power magazine to see like the different maps and the different strategies. Like that was really fun for me to see. So I wonder if that format would work well for a magazine about Stonemaier Games. Do I read Senate magazine? On occasion, I do. Yeah, not every episode, but I do read it, James. Jeff says, I need to go to Gamers Ranch. I would probably want to play as many new to me games as possible. Jeff, as someone who lives in St. Louis, I highly recommend it. Like, it is really nice to get away for a weekend, and you're not that far away. It's only a 2-hour drive, so it's not too bad. And just be surrounded by games and people who love games for the weekend. It is really, really nice. Chet says, curious if a strategy guide portion can be added to the rule book in a reprinted game. So the game has been played a lot, so you can collect tips from high-level players to add to reprinted rule books. It could. I'm open to doing that. I think I'm more inclined to add it as a separate booklet, so it doesn't make the rule book seem super long. That way it's something that you can use if you want to. I think that is possible, Chad. Yeah. George says, a cool idea for the mini brochures. This is the idea that George had. Like a magazine, it can come sealed in a plastic envelope with a mini surprise inside, like a small card, tile, or something for the game, newly made as a bonus. Yeah, that certainly could work. Probably it would be maybe an alternate art card, but I'm certainly open to that. Although the only problem there, George, and this is a problem with any promo, if we start including, so say we do an alternate art Wingspan card and we include it in all future copies of Wingspan that we sell, then everyone who already has Wingspan doesn't have that card, so we would need to offer that brochure and that card to them as well. So maybe we could offer, I don't know, it's getting complicated here. I don't want to make this too complicated, but we would then have to offer the strategy guides with the card on our web store as well. So then should we just might as well only offer it there? Yeah, it gets a little complicated when we start modifying games that are already in print, basically. Pete was also a Gamers Ranch. Pete said he had a great time at the Gamers Ranch. The best new Pete is my co-designer friend of Origin Story. He said the best new games to me were Blood on the Clock Tower and Moon Colony Bloodbath. I also had a great time teaching heavy games I love to new players. Thank you, Pete. Pete's a great teacher for games, and I'm glad you enjoyed those two games. I have played Blood on the Clock Tower in the past. I didn't play it this time, but I played a lot of Moon Colony Bloodbath. Garrett says, does your new place have enough steps to get your workout in? It does, actually. That was not something it was not a requirement for a new house. What Garrett is referring to is that my workout every day, in addition to doing like a little bit of a core workout, is that I run up and down the stairs in our building and in our condo building. So I was hoping for a house that had stairs that I would be comfortable doing that in, and our new house does have that feature, fortunately. But I also might try jogging. I don't love it as much as I enjoy stairs. I don't actually love jogging, but I think I might start playing soccer a little bit more. I played soccer my whole life. I played pickup on occasion, sporadically, but I think I'd like to play it a little bit more. Cardboard Crash Course says, I always appreciate your rulebooks and how they are written very clearly. I don't know if that's always true, but we do try our best with that. I do get lots of feedback from people about certain rulebooks, about the way they're written. Do you have a specific rule book that you feel was shorted or you would like to go back to rewrite clearer? Well, so the rule book that I've gotten the most feedback about people not understanding how the game worked was Expeditions, and which surprised me because Expeditions went through both a proofreading oversight and a peer review process. So that is one, and I guess the answer is I did go back to it and I reworked it to make it clearer based on all that feedback for reprints and whatnot. So that's the one that comes to mind to a certain extent. And I'm always open to feedback about our rule books. I think some of the feedback is harder to read than others based on the way that it's phrased, but I always appreciate constructive criticism about our rulebooks so that we can improve them for reprints and just so I can improve the rulebook process for the future. And I also like when reviewers talk about specific things that they like in rulebooks. For example, we're talking about Tend. This wasn't a reviewer, but a friend pointed out that in the rulebook for Tend, the sections of the rulebook and the table of contents are color coded, and then there's a banner at the bottom of the page of each page of Tend's rulebook that has that color. And so if you see in the table of contents that the pink section is about the pink action or whatever, then you could just look through the rulebook for pink. Like you don't have to necessarily look for the page number. The page number is there too, but you could look for pink and find that section really easily. I thought that was really clever. Winter Torrent says, hypothetically, if Dire Wolf were working on a new standalone sequel to Dune Imperium for the third movie, what mechanisms would you be excited for them to explore, if any? Well, that's a fantastic question, but I'm still someone who will gladly play the original Dune Imperium and the second Dune Imperium. Is there anything I would have them explore? I think both games are so brilliant. I don't know what I could possibly contribute to those games in terms of ideas. So I would certainly be curious as to what they create, but I have no idea what I would change to them or add about them. T.Y. Harmon says, any resources to find tabletop conventions? ? I would recommend looking at my blog post on the current state of Play and Win. If you search for that, I have a post about that in 2026, the current state of Play and Win. I linked to a spreadsheet. Please don't edit the spreadsheet, but you can certainly look at it. That has a ton of conventions on it, all of which have my favorite thing that a game convention can have, which is a Play and Win section. That's where you can check out a game from their Play and Win library and play it, learn it, enjoy it, hopefully enjoy it, and then put your name on a card or in a computer system afterward to say, hey, I played it and I'm interested in winning it or potentially winning it. And at the end of the convention draws names and each person can win at most one of the games that they played that they registered that play. So if you play a game and you don't enjoy it, you just don't enter your name. But if you played a game and you really enjoyed it, you enter your name for that game and you might potentially win it at the end of the convention. I think it's a great system to encourage people to try a wide variety of games at conventions. And so I have a master list of, I maintain it, but I am not the one entering the information on it. And I share it every year on that blog post. Children of Time is the series that I was trying to mention earlier. Red Mountain, I don't know if you're here yet for that, but I mentioned that a book that I am going to soon start reading after I finish the Ministry of Time is Children of Strife. And Children of Strife was just released in the US yesterday. So this is the 4th book in the Children of Time series, and I'm really looking forward to watching, to reading Children of Strife. I'm glad that you are enjoying this series as well. Charles says, what will be your new stairs cardio routine at your new house? I think it'll be pretty much the same. The only thing that I don't have in the new house is a pull-up bar. And the door frames don't really work for, like currently I have it in like a closet door frame. So maybe I'll find a closet door frame in the new house to put one, but there isn't as obvious a place to put it as in my current house. Jeff says, I have my picture as a 6th grader in Nintendo Power. Oh, that's cool. As a gift from my best friend, found a copy of it and gave it to me. That's really cool. Chip says, Days of Wonder released a small series of strategy guides for 5 tribes on their website to print off for free. There's a way to do it. I can just put it on the website, as well as an updated solo mode. They updated them as expansions came out and new strategies emerged. Had a great time this past weekend. So Chip was also at Gamers Ranch. Chip, it was wonderful to play games with you there. I got to play Bordeaux with Chip, and Bloodbath, and El Grande, and what was the one that we played at the end, Chip? There was another game that we played too. Bonanza. We played Bonanza as well. But yeah, I really like that idea of just making it available for people to look up and print on their own if they want, or just look at it digitally. Wendy is a fellow Missouri homeowner. She says yard work can become a slog in July and August. It can. It's very humid and hot here in St. Louis, but rewarding and a great workout. That's a nice silver lining. You won't have to mow as much in the hottest part of summer unless you water your grass. That's good to know, Wendy, about my upcoming yard work. Birder14 says, once all the Wingspan expansions are done, do you envision it having spin-off versions in the future? For example, a co-op game or like a 2nd edition? I don't know. I don't see that happening. I have announced that there will be a shorter, streamlined, distilled small box version of Wingspan that we're releasing this summer, actually. But I think the world of Wingspan is probably as big as it will ever be in terms of the sequels to the game, like we have Wormspan and Finspan. I think it is possible someday, if the Pokemon Company ever says you can work with us on this, there is the possibility, the very slim possibility, that there might someday be a Pokemon Wingspan. I think that is really the only consideration that I would have for a 4th one in the series. Maybe that'll change over time. I know a lot of people requested an insect version of Wingspan. It does kind of fit with the model because insects do lay eggs like the other animals in the world of Wingspan. So might consider that, but it definitely is not in the works right now. James says, is the revised Expeditions rulebook online? Yeah, whenever we update the rulebooks, we put them online, and it should be there. If not, feel free to let me know, and I will upload a more recent version of it. Hey, Sam. I'm glad you enjoyed Magical Athlete at the Gamers Ranch. Easy rules, lots of laughing with friends. Yeah, it is a great event/convention game, especially maybe after you play a really heavy game. Just take a mind break and come play Magical Athlete. I had a great time. I played it twice. I taught it once, just played it the other time, and I had a great time doing that. Team Evil Games played Vantage with 5 players. I loved how each book had the turn flow in the back, so it was in front of each player. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, that was very intentional to put that turn flow in the back of the rule book. That is like 95% of what you need to know to play Vantage, and it's right there in front of you. Jamie says, any thoughts on Star Trek Captain's Chair? I do indeed have a video about Star Trek Captain's Chair. I think my favorite mechanism in it, if I recall, I've only played it once, was the idea of each player having their own little deck of, I think they were called like development cards that you could pull into your deck at certain times. You could acquire those specific cards. You could plan ahead for them. I thought that was really, really clever. Dan says a comment about rule books. I played my first game of SETI solo this weekend. I noticed that the rule book didn't have example moves. I didn't realize how much I count on those to understand how the game works. That is a good reminder. I try to put examples in our rule book, but showing an example turn or a specific visual and written out example of how something works can really, really be helpful. Julio is going to see Project Hail Mary tomorrow. Do you have plans to watch it? Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the video, Julio. I am really excited to see it. I don't know exactly when I'm going to see it, but I want to see it in the theater for sure. And I would love to see it on opening weekend if I have the chance to do so. So hopefully this weekend, I hope you enjoy it. Jazz says, which game that you worked on are you the most proud of? That is a nearly impossible question to answer for me because I am really proud of all the games that we've created. The reason that I make games, whether as a designer, a developer, or as a publisher, is to bring joy to you. And so if any of our games brought joy to you, then I am proud of that game for that reason. I'm proud of the games that I've gotten to work on with other designers. I'm proud of the games that I've designed myself. It's really hard to pick one. So Jazz, I'll throw it back at you and say, what is your favorite Stonemaier game? And that will be my answer to your question. Mark says, will you consider making a coffee table book for Stonemaier Games? Might be something of interest as Stonemaier Games approaches 15 years in the board game industry next year. What would you, that isn't something that I've thought about, Mark, but what would you hope to see in something like that? What would you want? What would add value to you and bring joy to you in a coffee table book about Stonemaier Games? Before I get to other questions, let me look at my other topics real quick. Oh, yes. Okay, let me get to this topic before I go through other questions. In the topic today, I mentioned the topic of power rankings. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I haven't exactly figured out what I wanted to do with it. And so I'm going to experiment with something. In the description of this video, if you don't mind, answer the 3-question survey in the description of this video. This is a survey that is asking you which games that you have already played out of a select few that I mentioned in the survey. Which games that you've already played are you the most excited to play again? So this is, I love the hot list on Board Game Geek, but I've noticed that many of the games on that hot list are games that have not been released yet. They are games coming out in the future that no one has played other than the publisher and the designer and their playtesters. And so I am wanting to make a list that is focused on anticipation, focused on anticipation, but on games that people have already played. Which games do you most want to get back to the table? And so I'm going to pair this with my monthly video where I share the 3 games that I've already played that I am most excited to play again in the next month. I'm going to pair it with that. So it's going to be a public thing that I'm going to share each month where you get to showcase the games that you have played that you are most excited to play again. I've broken the list down just so it isn't all Stonemaier games. I have one question on the survey that is about Stonemaier games. I have one question on the survey that is about non-Stonemaier games. And I have a way for you to nominate games that aren't on the non-Stonemaier list that could show up on the list in the next month. So I would love for you to fill that out and see if it's fun for you. And if it is fun for you, you can stay tuned for the monthly video where I'll talk about the power ranking list. I don't know about the name yet. I'm temporarily calling it power rankings, but it's really more about like replayability and anticipation for replayable games, that sort of thing. But it also isn't purely about games that are highly replayable. It's just like what you are excited to play again after having played it at least once. So if you have any other names that you would suggest, I'm open to them. But yeah, if you can, sometime during this video or after this video, take a few seconds to answer the 3-question survey in the description. I'd really appreciate that. Joshua says, has Stonemaier ever considered going to PAX East in Boston? I imagine that the team can go to only so many conventions, but I noticed that PAX East does not have great board game representation. I'm confusing this one with like PAX Unplugged, which is in Philly. That's what I'm confusing it with. I don't know, Joshua. We still, I mean, I have a coworker who does specialize and focus on conventions, but we've kind of gone deep into certain conventions and not gone to many other ones. But Dave is always welcome to explore other conventions to see if they would be a good fit for Stonemaier Games. So that is something for Dave to potentially think about and consider. Oh, Dan says Children of Time is being adapted into a role-playing game. That's pretty cool. Cardboard Crash Course says, do you feel like having board games be your job, like my business lifestyle, has taken away any of the original magic of gaming that got you into it, such as burnout or boredom with gaming? You know, I try to really pay attention to this because it is, I think, reasonable that given how much time I spend making and thinking about board games and tabletop games, that occasionally I might get burned out on actually playing the games and enjoying them. But I've tried to avoid that by just being really aware of what I am drawn to at any given time. And so that has not happened. I haven't gotten burned or bored out, or bored out. But I think it is reasonable that could happen someday. And if I do, I'll try to just be aware of it and respect that feeling and go with the flow and try to work through it, because it is a big part of my life. Like, it is my biggest hobby and it is my job that I spend around 70 hours a week working on. So I try to pay attention to that as much as possible. Zachary says, I am super excited that this weekend his Friendly Little Game Store is putting on a first-time convention, and I saw that Stonemaier contributed to the Play and Win section that they are doing. Thank you for your support. Yeah, that's wonderful that they're doing that. Every month I go through our Play and Win list, and I send games to most of the conventions on that list. Sometimes every now and then it might be like a little bit too small, and I don't send games to, like a 20-person game night basically. But I send a lot of Play and Win games to a lot of different places for that list. Aaron says, out of curiosity, was the upcoming smaller Wingspan born out of the tariff situation or just a coincidence? It was just a coincidence. Like, for any of our games, we've been working on them for likely years. Maybe not all the expansions, but any game has been in the process for probably 3 to 4 years at least, before we reveal it, before we release it. So that's well before the tariffs were in place. Yeah. The Pool Bird says, are we allowed to know what the Expedition scythe is called, or when it can be pre-ordered? So I have not released the name of the game because I don't want it listed on Board Game Geek yet, because I haven't fully revealed it. That'll happen when I fully reveal it, which will be this summer. And there are no pre-orders for it. It will launch on our web store when it is ready this summer. I don't have an exact date yet, but I have a pretty good idea. So the best way that you can stay in touch about that is to subscribe to the Scythe newsletter, which is the same as the Expeditions newsletter. It's the world of Scythe. Subscribe to that newsletter, and you'll be the first to know the name and details about it when I reveal them, probably in around 3 to 4 months from now. Jamie says, is there any thought to put the Scythe Expeditions world into a book or novel to learn the story in a coherent way? So Jakob has worked with authors to put together a book of short stories about the world of Scythe. I believe it is only available in Polish, though. Jakob has also put together an art book for Scythe, and so there is a little bit more of the story in that book, but I don't think Jakob has planned to do any other books in the future that I'm aware of. I think he might be working with a role-playing company. I don't know what their status is, but that might scratch this itch that you're talking about. Again, I keep saying the word Jakob because this is entirely in his hands. We only have the rights to make tabletop games in that world. That's the only thing that we have the rights to do. Wade says, did you move far enough from your old place that you have to find new places to shop, etc.? We're still in St. Louis, so we will be moving within St. Louis in the near future. I will still go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in St. Louis to, eat at a fun place or you know, do a fun activity that I enjoy. But I kind of look forward to learning more about this new area as well that we're moving to. Chad says, I'm about to start book 4 and 4, 5, and 6 of the Red Rising series. Are you liking it? Anything I should know? I hope you enjoy it. I mean, mostly is I'm excited for you to experience those books. Book 6 is almost my favorite book in the series. Still didn't quite take it from book 1, which I still think is the best or my favorite. But I loved book 6. They do get a little dark, especially book 5 is pretty dark, and they're big books. But I think the journey through the darkness of 5 is worth everything that happens in 6. So I'll say that. Luke says about the coffee table book idea, having art, timelines, some short interviews with employees, champions, ambassadors. You and Alan could do forward and final thoughts. I like that. I like that idea for a coffee table book about Stonemaier Games. Red Stash Games says, just wanted to say this was my 4th time trying to get into Design Day, and I finally got in. Super excited for it. I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you got in. Yeah. I don't know the current status of it, whether or not it's already sold out or not, but I'm really glad that you got in. Paul from Gaming Rules stopped in just to say hi. Can't stop, and no questions for me today. Well, I'm glad you're doing well. Thanks for stopping in to say hi, Paul. I think Team Evil says I missed the 1-hour window for Stonemaier Games Design Day tickets. I think it was a little bit longer than 1 hour. I still saw sales happening the next day. Let's see if they're still happening today. But it's typically a 2-step process because we offer them to past attendees, but we do reserve some tickets for waitlist attendees who haven't attended in the past. So that still stay tuned for it just in case. But there is a hard limit in terms of the number of seats that we can add because it's a limited space. Like it is there are literal physical constraints on how much space that we have for Design Day at Pieces Board Game Bar and Cafe. But stay on the list. Please stay on the list because there might be a second wave of extra tickets because we do save those extra tickets. I don't know if we've already released them or not. That's why I'm kind of being vague about that. But also people drop out. People definitely do drop out. And so stay on that list so that we can contact you if someone does drop out. We need to fill that slot. So Mark mentioned the coffee table book idea. It says Stonemeier's journey in book form, game highlights on your titles, components, design, art, collaboration highlights with artists and designers looking ahead, maybe some teasers on what's next. That's really cool, Mark. I love the idea, and that complements what Luke said a few seconds ago. Steven says, am I just lucky, or is getting into Design Day for the first time ever equivalent to winning the lottery? I don't think the odds are that bad. But you know, it's a neat thing to see. And to see Design Day, to see people excited about coming to Design Day to playtest their prototypes. I love that people are excited about it. And I love that people want to come back year after year. That really forms a really fun community of people who see each other every year at Design Day. But what I've noticed and I love is that those people are very, very welcoming to people who are attending for the first time. So I like that it can be a little bit of both, that it can be inclusive and welcoming to newcomers, but also have that strong feeling of community for people who attend year after year. So Justin says, for anyone near Raleigh, North Carolina, there's a newer convention called Friends Across the Board. It's April 9th through 12th this year. Thank you for sharing that, Justin. Garrett says, if the smaller wingspan is a hit, it will be, as he says, according to Garrett, do you foresee doing a similar re-implementation for Finspan or Wormspan? It's on our minds. We'll see how people respond to it. And if people actually play it over and over again, as we hope they will. We are open to doing it, definitely open to do it for Wormspan. Finspan is more on the border for me because Finspan is already an icon-driven game, just like this lighter streamlined version of Wingspan will be. Finspan is also already a faster game than either Wingspan or Wingspan or Wormspan. So that one is on the border. I don't know. I think there's a fairly good chance if Wingspan, the streamlined version of Wingspan does well, that we will do one for Wormspan. Viking Kittens reminds me that I haven't done chocolate of the day today. I recently learned to bake a sour cream cherry pie, which has been outstanding. Ooh, that sounds really good. Unfortunately, my chocolate of the day does not involve pie, but It probably will be. I'm still going through, I'm looking at my chocolate supply over here. I'm still going through my dark chocolate peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's. So that will probably be my chocolate of the day today. Mark says there should also be a question asking which games have you already played? Which games have you already? So this is on the survey, Mark. Well, that's kind of the point of the survey. I want to know the games that you like. You can only answer for games that you've already played. That is the only way that you can answer. And games that you've already played that you are really excited to play again. I'm not looking for games that you haven't already played. So by default, the survey is only about games that you have already played. I'm referring to the survey in the description of this video. Let's see if there's anything else that I want to talk about today before I jump into your questions. There's one other question of the day, but I think this is good so far. Great discussion about the experts and maybe a coffee table book or brochures or a Nintendo Power Style magazine. We can still keep talking about that too. Austin says, recently you've been exploring publishing types of games that you don't normally publish, like a party game and a two-player dueling game. Are there other types of games you can see opening up to? So the party game is certainly one that I would still love to have in our portfolio of games. I think I would love to have one of those. A two-player game, I don't know if I don't think that is on our submission form. I don't think we are open to two-player dueling games, Austin. I'm sorry if I misspoke before. I think we have a certain format, like with Wingspan Asia, to make an expansion that plays two-player but also expands the core game. I think that is like the cheat code for how we can do that. Obviously, Smitten is an exception to that, but Smitten was an exception specifically for our 10-year anniversary. So it was an exception for a reason. But I think it is highly unlikely that we will open up our submission guidelines beyond their current boundaries. But you never know. That can change in the future. I waffled for a long time about the social party style game and eventually ended up adding it, but we still haven't signed one of those yet. Joshua says that the side expeditions fans will be losing their mind trying to figure out which game box they want to store the expansion in. I think most likely they'll just want to keep it in the new box because the new box is a standalone dueling game. Actually, yeah, Austin, this is in line with your question. So Scythe versus Expeditions, that this combination of standalone dueling game is also an expansion for Scythe and Expeditions, and Scythe and Expeditions expand the dueling game if you already own them. So I think people will just keep it in the core box, in the Scythe versus Expeditions box. Well, Stephen notes that he's going to be driving 12 hours from Toronto with the Positively Board Gaming podcast in the background. Oh, a nice thing to listen to go to Design Day. That's awesome, Stephen. Last year we had a couple drive from Canada. I can't remember exactly where in Canada. And that was amazing that they made that long trip. Thank you for making that trip this year for Design Day. Jeff is going to attend Design Day as well. That's awesome, Jeff. I'm glad you can make it. A much shorter drive for you from within St. Louis. Cardboard Crash Course has a nice thing to say here. I've played your games for years and worked with you via game partnerships and never realized that you answered questions so freely. I want to say that your transparency and realism is very appreciated. Well, I appreciate that, and I think one of the reasons that I am able to answer so freely and answer so transparently is that you all do respect the idea that there are certain things that I am not going to share. I'm not going to share spoilers until it's time for us to announce them. So it's a two-way street, and I really appreciate that two-way street and appreciate you all respecting that there are boundaries to that transparency. But that within those boundaries, I can talk about a lot of stuff, especially if you ask. I love to answer questions that aren't asking for spoiler information. Susanna says, about the power ranking list name, did you know that Molly from the Mill has a real knack for clever names? It's something fun I've learned about her over the years, so she might have a fun idea if you ask. I love hearing that, Susanna. I will ask Molly if she has a better name than power rankings for this list. I'll make a note of that. The Poolbird says, since tariffs are an issue and the community seems addicted to constantly buying, collecting new games over playing older ones, do you plan to make more games that reuse old components? I don't think so. No, I think each of our games is just each of our games come with the components that they need, and that will make those games shine at the table. That's generally my approach. The Champion faction had such a blast at Design Day last year and decided I wanted to return every year, but it's the one weekend in the fall that I can't attend. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Hopefully the weekend will work out better in 2027. Yeah, I hope so too. Philip says, moving from a condo to a house, as Bruce Willis says in Die Hard, welcome to the party, pal. Step 2, get a dog. Well, we have a cat already. I don't think we're interested in the upkeep of a dog, but I'm nervous and hopeful that Walter, our cat, will enjoy the new house. It will be a process to introduce him to the new house, and I'm hoping that process goes well. Luke says, I play tested at TCTC this weekend. It's amazing how feedback changes as the game develops, from broad strokes about what is not working to tweaks to make the game better. Thank you to all playtesters. I echo that. Thank you so much to all playtesters. I recently got some playtester reports for a game that I've been working on for a while, and they were really, really helpful. I really appreciate playtesters in particular who share examples of what happened, why it happened, and how it made them feel. That's the most important information for me to hear from playtesters. Mark says, after exploring the roll and write through Rolling Realms, will we see other verb and write formats from Stonemaier, like flip and write, draft and write? I don't have anything in the works right now. Oftentimes, at least as a designer, when I explored a game, like when I made a legacy game, when I made Charterstone, that kind of scratched the itch for me as a designer and as a publisher to have a legacy game. Like now we have it. We always have that game. It's not going anywhere. And so I think I've scratched that itch as a designer and a publisher through Rolling Realms, and my curiosity is elsewhere now to scratch other itches. Pete uses Design Day as an annual deadline to have one new project in a presentable state every fall. Yeah, it is nice, Pete, to have that milestone every year to say, okay, this is a real deadline. I can't change this date. I know that I'm coming, and I know I want to bring something to playtest there. Berta14 says, I have a group that plays with Wingspan weekly, and we just want to thank you for this great game. Thank you. We're from the Philippines. Well, thank you so much for playing Wingspan in the Philippines. I really, really appreciate that. Sam says, I apologize if this is, no need to apologize. If Tapestry is going to be added to Steam, not including the tabletop version. So actually, yeah, if you look at the Stonemaier Games YouTube channel, about 2 weeks ago, I posted a chat and demo that I had of Tapestry Digital with the developers who are working on it. They're estimating that it will be ready this year. You can see in the video how polished it is. Like, it looks really, really good in its current form. And the short answer is yes, it will be on Steam first, and then it will come to other platforms later if the Steam version does well. Steve says, Walter will take over the house before you do. I hope he does, but he will have, like, Walter is a 16-and-a-half-year-old cat. He's only known 2 places in most of his life, my old condo and my current condo. And so he thinks the whole world is this condo. So he's going to have to relearn that. Rasmus says, is there any sport that you think would work as a board game that you feel hasn't been explored yet? Probably not, no. I'm not one that looks for sports to be converted into board game form. If I want to enjoy watching or playing a sport, I'd rather play the sport itself than try to distill it down to a tabletop form, with the one exception being racing games. So maybe if there was a type of race that isn't represented in board games, maybe that would be my answer. Damon J has a nice thing to say about my communication. I appreciate you saying this. You were too amazing that when I'm dealing with another company, I keep saying that you're definitely not as good as Stonemaier Games. I don't want to invite that comparison. Everyone's different. Everyone has different priorities and schedules and times. So I'm glad for the opportunity to serve you, regardless of how we compare to other companies. Valerie says, we recently moved to a new house with stairs, and the cats are enjoying running up and down them. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm hoping Walter does that. Walter does sometimes when I'm running stairs in our current building. It's outside of our condo, but it's an enclosed staircase. Walter will sometimes come out there and either yell at me or he will run up and down the stairs with me a little bit, or saunter. Run is a strong word, but I'm hoping that he enjoys the stairs. I'm a little nervous because he is 16 and a half years old. It is natural for a cat at that age to have a little bit of arthritis, so stairs are going to get more difficult for him. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, and maybe I'll just have to carry him around a little bit more, which I'm happy to do. Dan says, if you're open to sharing, what design concept is the itch you're trying to scratch at the moment? You mentioned something about single deck games. Dan, that is certainly on my mind right now. I am really, really enjoying, like, Moon Colony Bloodbath and Cozy Sickerville are two of my favorite games of the last year. Both use a single deck where one player is just revealing a card from that deck, and either all players are doing the thing on that card or a specific player is doing a thing on that card. There's something about how accessible that is paired with the depth of decisions and choices that can emerge from that I really like. So that is certainly on my mind right now quite a bit. There's a few other more niche mechanisms that I'm toying around with that I don't want to talk about right now, but that single deck concept is something that I am enamored with right now, both as a player and potentially as a designer. Yeah. Colonel Kurt says, for games that you design, generally, how much playtesting do you do by yourself before you put it in front of playtesters? At what state do you consider a game, where a game needs to be? I generally try to play the game solo a little bit before it is like even bare bones functional. And then I might ask Megan to play a few times. And then I might ask some local friends to play a few times, friends and coworkers to play a little bit. And only when it is both functional and fun do I offer it to blind playtesters, because I don't want to waste their time with something that just doesn't work. I also don't want to waste their time with something that is not even fun for me yet. So that is the level that I wait to before I go into blind playtesting. Justin says, I'm working on a disc golf game and I'm coming straight to you when it's ready. You're welcome to do that, Justin. I will say that if I want to play disc golf, I'm going to go outside and play disc golf. And if I want to play disc golf on the tabletop, I'm probably going to play crokinole. So I don't know if that's the right fit for me personally. There are other disc golf games out there. I've never decided to explore them, even as a gamer. But I hope, most importantly, you're having fun working on it. That is the most important thing, regardless of how I feel about sports-themed tabletop games. Colin says, do you think it's harder to get anti-capitalist or political games published? What new challenges would that present? I think so. And I think the reason might be that that people like to escape when they play games. I think this is maybe some of the reasons that sometimes when Stonemaier Games announces something that is related to not necessarily political, but something that is real to the world, a real world issue, that people distance themselves from it because they want to escape when they play games, not think about the real world. But we are a business. We are very much involved in the real world too. So that's why sometimes we get involved with some of those issues. But I think when people are actually playing the game on the tabletop, that is the moment that they want to escape. They're choosing to escape in that moment. They're putting their phones aside. They're putting their real world feelings and thoughts aside, and they are immersing themselves in that game. The other slight thought here about anti-capitalism is that there are a number of people who enjoy economic games. And I think whether it's capitalism or anti-capitalism, I think that those elements of economics are interesting for some people to explore in games. So I actually don't think that is a deterrent at all. But I think political games, I think it's incredibly rare that you will find a game that is heavily political that is done incredibly well. It's that is sold well, that has been very successful. I think that is very, very rare. But economic games have done quite well. Philip says that cats might hide under the furniture for a day or two, but then they're fine. Don't bring the cats in until you're pretty much moved in. Philip, I love your advice about this because we have movers coming to move all our stuff. And I was planning to move Walter before that because I don't know what he'll do while we're here. Like, I don't know where he would go while we're here, while movers are coming in or out. I think that would be really, really disruptive to him and potentially even dangerous. So I'm planning to move with Walter the morning of the move and get him over there and maybe constrain him to the bedroom so that he can be safe in a specific space. I do agree that adds other difficulties because he doesn't have a good place to hide then. The pool board says, have you had the chance to play Ada's Dream yet? I have not. I am maybe a little daunted by the weight of it, but with the right teacher, I'm open to playing it still. Wendy also says, be sure that Walter is in a safe, secure, and comfy place during the actual moving process. Cats can escape or hide in crazy places from fear or stress during the commotion. And yet, Wendy, yeah, that is what I was thinking, kind of, that I would move Walter first, bring him to a smaller space in the new house that he can explore a little bit on his own, but not overlap with the movers. That I'm working on that, thinking about that. Pete says, I think games on serious subjects can be made, but mostly these have more of a niche audience. I think of historical games from companies like GMT and Whirligig for that, Pax Pamir. Pax Pamir is actually a somewhat political historical game that has done fairly well, the second edition. Oh, and Pete continues to say, some gamers like myself enjoy exploring serious topics in the safe space of a game. For others, that is not enjoyable or what they want in a fun experience. That's well said, Pete. Aaron says, when it comes to political messaging in games, I think it really comes down to the use of allegory and how well you can use one thing to represent another. I look at Molly House as a prime example, one of Aaron's favorite games. Aaron has mentioned this as a panelist on our channel a few times. And Wendy, I'll end with this. I hope we all have a safe, secure place to be in the near future, especially Walter. Wendy says, yes, having Walter in a closed, secure place with familiar smells and items will help reduce stress during the move. That is a great idea. Maybe I'll move some of my clothes first so he can sit on them and be near something that smells familiar to him during the move. Oh, and get a litter box in there. Good advice there, Chad, too. Thank you all for joining today. I really appreciate, as always, your questions, your answers, your thoughts, your insights. And if you can take a second, if you haven't already, look at the survey down in the description below. It's 3 questions about games that you've already played. Only answer for games that you have already played. And they will impact something that I showcase in April, what I'm currently calling the Power Rankings. Might have a new name then. Awesome. Yeah. Also, any cat moving advice is also appreciated. Take care. Have a great day. And I will see you next week. Bye.